Hello, everybody, and welcome to My Heart's Purpose weekly drop in, where I interview folks who know their purpose and live it in various ways. We also dive into one of the methods of My Heart's Purpose. If you don't know, My Heart's Purpose is a 9 method virtual journey designed to help you discover your why and create or refine your life purpose statement. Today, starting we are starring a guest interview with Robert Alexander. Then we're going to transition into exploring one of the 9 methods with of My Heart's Purpose with Robert. So let me tell you a little bit about Robert. He is an audio alchemist and the creator of LifeRhythms, a platform focused on using personalized sound to help people heal, align, and elevate their lives. After walking away from a corporate world, Robert followed his inner knowing and built a path rooted in purpose, helping others reconnect their truth through the power of sound and resonance. I'm just sensing a deep inner knowing from a young age where it went from disconnection from conventional paths to corporate burnout, which I can totally relate to, choosing self trust over safety, discovering sound as a healing tool, building life rhythms, and helping others return to their own resonance. So, welcome, Robert.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for being here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, totally stoked to be here with you. Um, is there anything outside of what I shared that you would like to kind of drop about yourself that just to further introduce yourself?
Oh, wow. Well, the joys of being aware and also being multidimensional without being everything to everybody. I mean, the conversation can probably go on for a very long time without being full of myself. So just super honored and always happy to see what unfolds. And you're doing phenomenal work.
Cool, sweet, sweet. Thank you so much, and as are you. So,
Thank you.
I was curious. You said even as a kid, you felt like something was off. You know what did that awareness actually feel like? And at what age were you?
It's interesting. And that's a really good question, too, because what do you do when you feel like an outlier? People are laughing at you and looking at you, and you talk with people you think have your back, and they mean well. And they're just kind of like, either you're too sensitive. Well, I remember that at a very young age. But at one point, then it's like, well, I just don't understand. If we're navigating a world and you feel like the majority or quite a few of these people are just like, it's like, well, why are they looking at me like I'm 3 fries short of a Happy Meal? It's like, what? And it took a little while for me to realize, wait a second, like we all have different levels of awareness, but it took me a while to actually get to that point. So I just remember from a very young age, I didn't realize I was disassociating.
Hmm.
So that's why I didn't know that was different. I just didn't know any better.
Sure.
And it took a while to reflect back and go, huh, oh, okay, that makes sense now.
So around you said young age. I'm just trying to kind of like pinpoint like when did you start feeling that? How old were you around?
Wow. Well, I mean, I remember being made fun of when I was a kid, like 6 or 7 years old, and just at the same time, though, I was just like, well, they're making fun of me. I didn't know. But then again, reflecting back, going, oh, yeah, even being as young as I was at 5 or 6 or whatever it might be, I didn't realize that something felt different then when it seemed like all these people were like against me
Yeah.
or they knew something like you're weird. Or, I mean, people were telling me like, you're weird. And it's
Yeah.
like, it's more like, okay, well, you're telling me versus me actually feeling like, am I? Like,
Yeah.
so probably like around 5 or 6.
Yeah. Amazing. And then as you got older, how did that feeling of something missing show up in your life or your decisions?
It's a really good question. When you grow up, well, whoever you may be, for me, growing up and throughout time, realizing something continued to fell off. At one point, I thought it was insecurity. Well, you're not good enough. You're weird. People are looking at me weird. Not everybody, but just there's just a certain vibe. And after a while, then it's like, well, is that true? Because what do you do the majority of your life and people are looking at you in a certain way? Then how am I supposed to be showing up in the world?
Yeah.
Like, like what is going on? And then it reaches a certain point when you feel misunderstood, which could be considered like a life pattern. Then at the same time, when you reach a point, then it's like when you are real and you're being as real as you are, and people may not be able to understand the realness of what we're bringing to the table, that's a whole other story too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just had this sense, it's like when things feel so off and you attempt to do things in a specific way and it just doesn't really pan out for you,
Yeah.
then it's like, okay, well, then something is going on. Then how do I navigate with that? Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And so from your life path, you it sounded like you took that and you went into a life path which maybe you thought you were supposed to do. Like so talk a little bit about that like corporate, life that you had and then the moment where that path stopped being tolerable.
Oh, you're in for a treat. I'm sure this can be very like relational in that way. So I learned, just very much like, hey, you got to do this to support your music. You got to do this in order to do this. You got to work full time. You got to support yourself. And it's not like I'm like, sure, whatever, man. Although I still felt attuned to doing things like in a boutique way, in a very unique way. It may not be the corporate world. It might be more like a small like design firm.
Yeah.
So, for instance, I grew up in the suburbs of LA. When I was going to school, oddly enough, I worked for a rabbi for 4.5 years.
Yeah.
That was a bit of a trip too. So
Yeah.
I was there for like 6 months, right? Thinking like, oh, I'll be there for 6 months, whatever. Took me, 4.5 years to be like, you
Yeah.
know what? I can only go as far as I can go here. And then even when I was looking for a full-time permanent role in the design world,
Yeah.
it was crazy. It took me 5 years to find a full-time permanent position, benefits, everything. And even they said, you're not going to be able to be moving up in this role, right? I'm like, honestly, this is like my design role. I'll take it. It's like a production artist role.
Yeah.
Woven labels, like what am I going to be doing with a woven label, sizing things out and doing things that way, right? So I was thinking, yeah, I'll be there for a couple of years and, somehow just grow it so I can just be an extent where I can move up and move out and still be true to myself and whatever that might mean, because I'm attempting to follow this very conventional path. I was there for 9 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking like I'm barely getting by, debt's going up, this is kind of crazy. I found another opportunity actually working for a design company. I was working as like a design manager, like a startup, they work with interior designers, thinking like stepping up, stepping out, So this is where it got crazy too. Even with that, I was like laid off within a year.
Yeah.
Now get this, prior to the previous position, right? A mentor of mine was telling me, maybe you could be a coach. So I'm just thinking like, oh, I'm Robert Alexander and I'm a coach, And it just didn't sit well. Like no matter what I attempted to do, it just felt like I wanted to do something outside the box.
Yeah.
No,
So that was this moment where it just didn't feel aligned. It just didn't
well,
feel
exactly.
it just it was
All
so
of it really didn't. So the reason why I'm saying that was because at one point when I realized, wait a second here, there has to be another way where I can bridge some of these gaps. And that's besides me going into like the music wellness and diving into different things that way. I just knew there had to be another way.
yeah.
And at the same time, I just didn't know where to connect those dots, where to create that bridge.
Yeah, and I think that's the place where so many people are at. So many, especially right now. It's wild with all the changes that are currently happening. I think a lot of people are sitting there with that same kind of mentality. Whereas I'm not fully aligned with what I'm doing. I either dislike what I'm doing, or it's not really fulfilling me. It's not really making me come alive. With who I am. Here
Exactly.
to be. So in that moment, what do you think it was that gave you the courage to trust yourself to make a whole different move?
You know, to be honest with you, I mean, throughout my life, I've had different waves of either something doesn't feel right. What can I do in my power to help co-create a shift? And I know when people would say, how is your music going? Because my world's evolved from way more than just doing life rhythms. Even with what I'm building with this new brand that I have, Purveyor, which is it's mind blowing because of how much experience I brought to the table. When we're living in a world from like, what do you do to what are you working on right now? What are you evolving? You know who you're talking with when you have those types of conversations.
Yeah.
So I just knew like I'm feeling burnt out here. I can only go as far as I can go. If I'm doing this to support myself, and for crying out loud, I even hit bankruptcy at one point personally. I'm sure different levels too. something needs to shift. I'm not sure where to go. How is the best way of going about that? And I even took that idea and just evolved that.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things where I'm like, I can only go as far as I can go. What if you attempt to go the conventional route? And it doesn't mean I'm anti-conventional.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work for me. It
Yeah.
might work for somebody else, but it doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
Then I'm all about thinking outside the box and doing things in a way like what really resonates with me.
Yeah.
And it's a no-brainer for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious about music, and has that been with you the whole entire time, sidelined with doing the graphics and other stuff that you've been doing? And what was the pathway of Life Rhythms to Purveyor? You know?
Sure, sure. So music has always been my thing. I mean, I remember writing music when I was a kid. Never really went to like a music school or anything like that. Even get a graphic design degree from, family. Or mother. I lost my father when I was super young. So it's just, and she just wanted the best. She comes from working a specific role and doing things in order for you to support your music, get something to be in tandem with that.
Yeah.
So at the same time, people would still ask me, and this is before me being a music artist, because Evlove is different than Life Rhythms. So at one point, it's like people are like, "Hey, Rob, how's your music going? How's your music going?" So that's like a divine, wink.
Yeah.
In the meantime, hey, can you create music for a meditation of mine? Hey, can you create music for this? This is before I even got signed.
Hmm.
So I mean, music and community, those two are very, really important pillars in my life.
Yeah. And so Life Rhythms was your first step, or was that the first thing that you started developing on when you went on your own?
No, I mean, initially I wanted something where I might be able to be more of like a tailored solutions type aspect. In fact, Purveyor is an offshoot of a whole bunch of different things that may have formed into, actually it did, all into one. So at the same time, it just, whatever is helpful for developing relationships within community, whatever is helpful from what I can bring to the table within community. Life Rhythms was one of those things where it evolved from maybe being a life coach and creating something a bit different, because I really didn't vibe with life coach. Not to make any life coaches like that role bad. It's just, I'm all about really operating in a way that can really connect with people from the heart.
Yeah.
And at the same time, still co-creating strategy, right? So me designing these personalized pieces of music, also being substance free. Like I don't drink, I don't do cannabis, I'm not anti-cannabis, I'm not anti-alcohol. Um, Never done ayahuasca. When it comes to plant medicine, the only thing I've ever have done is really like, kava,
Mm.
maybe some cacao, but nothing with kratom or anything like that. So I figured, you know what? Why not have something that's designed for people that want to do something different, where they don't have to necessarily ingest medicine for that.
Yeah.
They could actually go into the clean, where they could actually go inside themselves in a non-altered state, using their inner substance to even feel higher than any altered state, most likely.
Which essentially becomes an altered state in and of itself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I figure, well, you don't necessarily have to have something to help you get there.
Yeah.
Why not continue to feel relaxed to dive into that state? So in essence, I realized, well, that was something I can evolve to with that. So does that answer your question?
I think so, and I guess what
Okay.
I'm curious about to learn a little bit more about is personalized sound work.
Sure.
Like what you actually do for people, and then how, when they have that, how does that shift? What does that shift for them?
Got you. Thank you for clarifying. Okay. So in this case, basically, every person has their own life. Everybody has their own rhythm. And that's one of the reasons why the name came to be, right? So when people ask me, like, well, what kind of frequencies do you work with? It's not about a 432 or a 528. It's, I work with your frequency.
Mm.
Well, how do you know what that is? Well, I don't know. I know. In fact, the other person knows too, and they may not be aware of what they may know. So it really starts with a conversation. So if a person shows up and they're feeling blocked, I'm not responsible for healing any blocks. I'm working with them and they're diving into their space. So when they have something that's made for them, they can use it as a manifestation tool. They're really getting a remembering of what they're walking away with at the end of the session.
Mm.
Now, away from the session, that's when I design the music.
Yeah.
But I record them speaking in a space where they're able to dive into their inner wisdom. And I record them in that. So I take that, because I would ask them, imagine having a piece of music and beforehand, how are you feeling? Feeling really relaxed. Great. Well, I'm going to be recording you at this point. You don't have to put any pressure on yourself. Just trust the belief systems that we were talking about because everyone's different. I want to learn more about their belief systems and whether it's universe, Gaia, nothing, it's tapping into what their intuition's saying. So when I ask them about that, I'm capturing things that they want to be hearing from themselves. I take that, design a piece of music behind it so they're feeling triggered. They want to manifest something. They're just needing some inspiration. They need to be reminded of specific things. They have a recording where they can tap into at any given moment, where they can re-access the inner wisdom inside of them. And that it can help them in a variety of ways.
Sure, sure. That's really amazing. So,
Thanks.
so this, what I like to, with regard to life purpose, I think a lot of people are, um, it's a hard thing for sometimes for people to think about because there's a lot of pressure on doing. There's a lot of pressure on the expression. That life purpose is going to have, and I think sometimes people might not realize that jobs come and go, careers come and go, these things come and go, but as long as you are activating your life purpose within an expression that allows you to live that, that's when this like, inner excitement is happening. And so with life rhythms and creating that type of music for people, I mean, I can come up with my own reasons for how that would like activate me if I was the creator of that. But I'm curious from your perspective, like who is it that you're being? How is your life purpose activated through that expression?
Oh, you mean when I'm participating with my clients and just
Yeah.
really being embodiment event?
And who do you feel you are being when you're offering that expression of purpose?
Well, you just said it yourself. That's exactly what it is. Because when you're dialed into a space where you're in that zone and you know that you're activating in the essence of, what we already are. And at the same time, we're activating that space and it's an inherent knowing. There's the inherent wisdom within it. So at the same time, when you're in that space, I mean, basically, it's like a timeless space. At the same time, it's the embodiment of essence.
Mm,
So you really can't go wrong in that space because you're truly in that space of embodiment. You're in that space of purpose.
mm-hmm.
That is one of the purposes, one of the facets of what I've been bringing to the table. So it feels very natural to me.
Yeah, yeah, it's awesome. So
Thanks.
I'm curious about kind of looking at truth versus comfort. And so one thing I've heard you say is if we're not living on purpose, we're not living in truth. So what helped you choose truth over comfort?
To be honest with you, comfort changes by the nanosecond. So then I wonder, like, what does that even look like? Because there's times, honestly, where my nervous system is just like thinking, like, okay, it feels like my nervous system is just completely activated. But there's times I'm like, well, wait a second. I mean, am I misunderstanding what this is? Because maybe there might be something that might be really cool showing up
Mm-hmm.
versus me being eaten up by like a bear or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So at the same time, I mean that's just like it doesn't mean it has to be all the time.
yeah,
It's just being aware of where I am in the moment.
yeah,
So when it comes down, would you mind asking the question? Because I want to make sure I'm clearly answering it.
yeah. Totally. What helps you choose truth over comfort?
Okay. That's I don't think I've had many people really asking that question. So I'm very grateful for that. So when I think of truth, everybody has their own truth. One person may think one thing is true and it's entirely, different for somebody else. So for me, when I think about my truth, I think about, what I stand for. I think about my essence. So I also know what it's like from what I've shared with you, growing up, feeling like an outlier, knowing that I have a purpose,
Mm-hmm.
knowing there's the right people in the right rooms or the right places that are receptive to what I'm bringing. Just because there's a chance in some areas of my world I may feel outnumbered by people that may not understand that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to stop me from me being in my truth. So I know what it's like to feel uncomfortable
Yeah,
or feeling comfortable feeling uncomfortable.
yeah,
So truth for me, I mean, that was the first name of my music project.
yeah,
It's so important to be in my truth.
yeah, yeah. And
I need it's imperative.
yeah, and reflecting a little bit upon feelings I would imagine that you have is like as you have created, this expression of this purpose, which is essentially designed to help people feel more truth in their lives. And so
Yeah.
as they're listening to this music and really connecting with themselves and their own truth, every single time you create one of those pieces, it's further activating yourself and further activating everything that you're doing, because it's so true for them, and it activates their truth, and then it activates your own truth, and the magic of that is like, just, I can imagine, so much fun.
Thank you. Yeah, it's what do you do when people continue to show up and go, how did you make that? I love this instrument. Did you know that? Like, how did you know this? Or, wow, like I said that. I was such in an altered state. I can't even remember saying that.
Yeah.
Or, wow, oh my goodness, like this helped me manifest XYZ. Like, seriously, like, I don't know how you did. This is incredible. And for me, it's not about, oh, like Han Solo, like, I know, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
It's more of a matter of, it's like, well, just the more I'm connecting and the more the place is inviting for one's to be in one's true expression,
Mm-hmm.
then why not co-create in that? Because it's really not about me creating a piece of healing music.
Yeah.
It's creating a piece basically where I'm capturing their voice really is the alchemy, and it's amplifying what their voice is in that direct state.
Yeah.
And yes, it is pretty freaking incredible.
Oh man, it's such a gift. I'm Last week we had a guest, Brene Russell, on here, and she's a dancer, and we talked a lot about partner dancing,
Oh
and
yeah.
and the beauty of connecting with others in that flow state. And I'm also just kind of like drawing some patterns, and seeing how all of these calls, there are similarities, and what's really beautiful about what you're talking about, and which kind of like matches up with that, is when two people are dancing and they're in flow together, they're creating something new together. And then, so what you're doing, here, it's like you've created this music, but it wouldn't be the same music if it didn't have their voice. And because it has their voice, it has this element of themselves. And that element of themselves is going to help them be in flow, more. So you're in flow while you're creating it. And then when they're listening to it, they get to be in more flow. And it's just so good for our world.
Agreed. Agreed. The co-creative solution is really important. That's why I say, see, for me, no matter how much studying I can do around sound healing, the logic can only take you so far. And there's a gentleman. Have you heard of the name Don Estes before?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, he's a buddy of mine. I've known him for years. In fact, I used his technology to master my first album with him. And I remember just showing up at his home when he was living in Santa Monica, and I'm just like, hey Don, I'm just wondering, I'm showing up here, like, how is the best way to heal people with sound? This is like over a decade ago, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And here he is, like hearing my music even prior, just not even prior, just with the music I would just send him just to listen to. And he's just like hanging out with a sub pack at the point, and just like hanging out in his chair with his like goggles, and just like, oh, this inventor of like, technology.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, kind of like asking like the wizard from the Wizard of Oz kind of a thing. Like, so I'm just wondering, like, how is the best way? Because honestly, use your heart.
Yeah. Sweet, man.
That's what
Well,
I do.
it's amazing. It's really, really, what a gift. What a gift to them, and in such a beautiful way, what a gift to you, to get to offer that level of truth to people.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
So I'm curious, what is it that, from what we've talked about, is there a message, or is there something you would like listeners to like receive from this, that like you've learned with regard to like finding their purpose?
Well, I really appreciate the questions you're asking because basically I feel like the answer is already within them. So for instance, like in this case, like we may not know where we're going. We may have a sense of where we would like to go. And at the end of the day, like we have this internal compass, right? And some people may not even understand, like, I don't understand, like, why are you going here? And it's like, you may not even, whoever you may be, may not understand why at the moment. And there's a reason why you're being called to go on that path, whoever is like listening to this. And there's really no wrong way, unless if you're like, maybe I may want to course correct and explore that. So it's like, we have this ability to attract wisdom from within. There's a remembering of it anyway, right?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, like we have what it takes to be true to ourselves. And at the same time, it doesn't matter what anyone else says, because wherever we are right now, we have the ability to access it. And there are people and places and experiences that can remind you of it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Thank you. Thanks. I totally agree. It is within us, and it just takes that magical step forward and trusting that there is going to be something there for us to step on. And even if there's not, just somehow, some way trusting that it is going to be there, for us to step
Totally.
on, to take that next step. Sweet. Well, now we are going to move into a little bit about My Heart's Purpose. So, My Heart's Purpose is a 9 method virtual journey designed to help people discover their why, which I see as an anchor to what they do, and then also to help them create or refine their life purpose statement, which is the fuel and the inner guidance and the motivation to help them decide to choose the expressions of doing that which is truly aligned with their true north. And so method 3 is called guiding principles. Your guiding principles are your core values. And so I love guiding principles, and they really, really help like ground us, and then it gives us really something to live from. And if we know them and we got them really dialed within ourselves, then we can truly we can it's so much easier to just like live, in the way that we really want to live. So I'm curious, what are 2 different values that you hold for yourself as like your true north values?
I don't believe in making promises unless I know I can actually carry them out. And even when it comes to committing to something, I'd rather say I'll do everything in my power to carry through. And if there's anything along the way, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
So I guess you could say there's the being true to my word transparency component.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, or one of them is being true to myself no matter what.
Yeah. How does being true to yourself no matter what support you to like live a life on purpose?
You know, I mean, there's so many facets to it too. And at the same time, I've noticed with my intuition, I've noticed the way that I navigate life. And even when I've had to actually step away from some of the closest people who I knew, because simply just, there wasn't really any resonance at that time, it just, there's something to be said about following that and being able to level out, to clear and to level up and to like level out again. So I'm, the more that I'm vocalizing this out loud, it's been more of a compass to me.
Yeah.
So I could see where that can go. And yeah, it does feel scary at times. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Being in truth is an important place to be. And when you're walking in a direction where you may not know exactly where to go, and you're attempting to trust that the compass is leading you,
Yeah.
it can get pretty interesting. So
Yeah.
does that make sense?
Yeah, no, 100%. 100%. Another thing, vulnerable thing, you shared is transparency, being another one, of your values. And I'm curious if, how do you feel like having that value of transparency is supportive to living a life on purpose?
Your questions are awesome. They really are, authentically. You know, there's just a lot of runaround. There's a lot of runaround. Even when I reach out to people these days, I feel like I have to be even more like clear, even more transparent. I'm sure some people may not even know what to do with that.
Yeah.
Because when I'm talking with people, when I say, how can I support? And this is just an example. It's one of those things where I'm like, I don't know how much more clear I can say, hey, this, just want to be clear. I'm not asking for an invoice. I'm just saying, hey, let's talk, or whatever it might be. So knowing that, and at the same time being true with that, I guess what I'm meaning to say is just like maintaining that. It's a really important thing to me. And people may or may not be craving that as well. So sometimes it's almost like calling it out, like just saying it how it is. And people are like, oh, wow, we actually can be transparent.
Yeah.
Because we're living in such of a world where there is so much runaround.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to like the static or the runaround, or people are feeling protective and they don't know how to utilize that protection so it can really benefit them versus shooting themselves in the foot,
Yeah.
Why not be able to stand in that integrity? Why not be able to stand in that grit? And at the same time, it's another aspect of my truth. So yeah, there has been a lot of pushback in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't stop me from connecting with people that operate in a similar way. And when it does take place, the feeling definitely feels, great. The energy definitely is great. So it's worth maintaining that.
Yeah, yeah, and when I hear you say that, and I think about transparency, and I think about your one of your expressions of purpose being music. I mean, music is incredibly transparent. You know, like when you put something out, everybody hears exactly like all the different layers of that, and just as a metaphor of transparency, it's so aligned, you know, with that value of yours.
Beautiful. I appreciate you saying that too. That's a
Yeah,
big deal.
cool, man. I got one more question for you, but before we run into that, I just want to let people know that I'm really glad that you joined us for this call. It's been really cool to get to know you a little bit more, and I want to explore doing some music work with you, and whatever else we can conjure up. So this call is designed to showcase that living a life on purpose is possible for everyone. It truly, truly is, and we all have a million different pathways on how to get there. And so part of the reason I want to do this to showcase, you know, it's like, hey, choose your path, and there are going to be lots of similarities, and people can listen to these interviews and then also see all of those different similarities. And if we look at the patterns and follow those within ourselves, then you know we're going to follow the crumbs and get there for ourselves. And so this is also a space so we can build community around other people that are looking to live their lives more on purpose. So this happens weekly. And for people that are going through the app, My Heart's Purpose, it offers them a place where they can come weekly and they can just check in and they can feel supported. Because honestly, I don't know if you know, but most people that start online courses don't finish them. You know, less than 20% of people that start online courses actually finish them. So the purpose, you know, of this is to offer, you know, an online thing so people can come in as they're going through the process for themselves. And so, if you, I'm going to give people a deal here. If you want to jump into My Heart's Purpose, first off, method one is free. It's free for everybody. It helps people find their why, and you can get in there and go through it, and you can see how the whole thing works. It's been an amazing build for me in the last 6 or 7 months to put this thing together. So check it out. Check that out for free. And then if you upgrade, you'll save $11 if you use myheartspurpose.com/special. And if you do that in the next week here, my homie Robert here is going to get a little chunk of that, because that's how we just give back to our guests. You know, we just want this to be regenerative for everybody, and y'all get to save $11. So myheartspurpose.com/special, and come back next week. You know, we're here for all of you. So to close this out, Sir Robert, um, you work with sound and resonance and transparency within all of that. And so if someone's life feels out of tune, what's the first note they need to listen for?
It's a really good question, because for me, it's not about the note. You know, it's more about what they resonate with inside their hearts. So maybe the heart could
Mm.
be whatever the note that might be. And
What
I
ha-
feel very educated.
what happens to a heart that is closer to that? You know, what happens? What is it? What is that tune or thing in their heart? You know, what is it that we're looking for?
It's the magic, in my opinion, that they resonate with. You know, it's that essence. You know, it's that connection to consciousness. You know, it's the inner wisdom that's giving the messages.
Mm.
Because remember, the music is simply like an agent or like a backing band behind, even though it's very soothing ambient music. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So at the end of the day, you know, it's what they can feel connected to.
yeah, yeah.
It might be different. One person may be into strawberries, one person may be into chocolate, some might be into both, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really it's their inner resonance that they're listening to, that they can connect with.
Are there people that are not into strawberries and chocolate?
You never know. They're either allergic, or you just never know.
I know, I'm just kidding. Well, bro, I just really want to thank you for being on this call with us today. If somebody would like to find you or work with you, how can they connect?
Honestly, I'm pretty adaptable, and I'm pretty approachable. So you can send me a DM. You can find me on liferhythms.us. At the end of the day, though, you could even comment like, "Ooh, I want to be in touch." Done. It's pretty easy.
Cool, man. Is there Are there any, I didn't notice on your website, but maybe there are. I'm just curious if people want to listen to like an example of what these
Yeah.
pieces are. There's some examples there.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely,
Sweet.
definitely.
Sweet. I'm going to go check that out myself. So, once again, thank you so much. We're going to be back here next week at 4 p.m. Pacific for another conversation with another amazing friend of mine who lives their life on purpose. And then we're going to explore method 4 of My Heart's Purpose. So, to all of you out there, I hope you have a great weekend. And Robert, you have a great weekend. And thanks so much for being on the call with us today.
And thank you, brother. Appreciate you so much. Thanks, everybody.